PT was the greatest horror game that never came out. But what if I told you it is coming back?
And I'm bringing my new toys with me.
We should start by addressing the elephant in the room. This game shouldn't even exist. In fact, technically it doesn't exist, as it's not on the PlayStation market anymore. But let's go back to 2014 when a mysterious game appeared on the PlayStation market. This was the only image I could find of the original description, as it was, which is rather ominous. However, it prompts the players to be the first in the world to solve the mystery. The image associated with it as it is displayed on the market is what looks to be a gravestone and text saying PT, as well as an unknown developer known as 7780 Studio. But what people didn't know at the time was that players were in for a groundbreaking horror game that still to this day inspires modern games, and despite being simply a short teaser, still remains shrouded in mystery. When players booted the game, they were greeted with ominous text and an empty room that reeks of insane asylum. As we enter through the door, the game kicks off with its grand reveal. It's a hallway? Well, there isn't too much to look at. A little alcove on the right and the clock says 23:59. Nothing crazy, but really it's a strange hallway. It's so empty? This is our first sign of something being off. First, how many hallways can you think of in your life that look like this? I've never seen a house quite like it. The lack of doors or practical use for a hallway is, well, a little peculiar. This is also our first look at the decrepitness of this place. It's a little run down and a bit old? Interestingly, as you move forward, the next stop is a dresser on our left. This little indent on the wall is called an alcove? I knew that? Why did I doubt myself? How did I know that? Anyways, it's basically a spot designed for you to put something in your house for decoration. However, can you even call this decoration? I mean, look at it, this dresser is a complete mess. There's lots of things on it, old stuff, it looks abandoned, messy, dirty, and it gives this strange, like, 70s vibe? Certainly not modern. Moving on, as we move forward, we can see an open door. There's a doorway on our right closed, and slightly past that is a sort of entryway with a chandelier. The chandelier is constantly swaying, and a radio begins playing a slightly disturbing message.
On a Sunday afternoon. The day of the crime, the father went to the trunk of his car, retrieved the rifle, and shot his wife as she was cleaning up the kitchen after lunch.
Looking around, we can also find some more decrepit things, and a general feeling of unease will come upon you. Again, it's worth noting that this place doesn't look logical. I mean, like, it's kind of nonsensical, and like, the hallways just don't even make sense for a house. If you imagine coming into this home, honey, I'm home, it feels completely illogical. As we move on, we walk through the door downstairs, open up the door, and a hallway? Well, there isn't too much to look at. A little alcove on the right, and the clock says 23:59. Nothing crazy, but really it's a strange hallway. It's so empty. As we pass the alcove and the extremely messy dresser on our left, we are greeted again to the confusing architecture of this place, and we make our way down the hall. The door at the end of the hall is closed. There is no prompt to open the door and no button works. Therefore, the only logical solution is to go back. As we pass a room on our side again, we can hear knocking, which is the first moment we get properly scared. At least I did.
Oh, I hate that.
When we walked down from where we came, we could see the picture frame fell off the wall. This picture frame is the only guide we will receive on how to play the game. It tells us to press R3, which allows us to zoom in. Or, if you're like me and trying to get new footage for this game and have to play Unreal PT, it will tell you to right click. When you do, it will say, "My voice, can you hear it? This sign, can you read it? I'll wait forever if you'll just come to me." When you see it, the door at the end of the hall now opens for you to proceed. As you head downstairs and walk through the door, you enter a hallway? Well, there isn't too much to look at. A little alcove on the right, and the clock says 23:59. Nothing crazy, but really it's a strange hallway. It's so... At this point, it's abundantly clear. This is the core mechanic of the game, and if you've played a horror game in the last 10 years, there is a high chance you played one with a looping mechanic. While PT is not the first, it is definitely the most influential in the horror genre. In our third loop, as we pass the hall, we can hear an extremely loud banging and crying at the door. At this point, most players want to finish this loop fast and just head to the exit. As we make our way onto the fourth loop, you won't believe this, but we are greeted to a hallway? Well, there isn't. Okay, we get it. On this loop, as we head to the door, it closes on us slowly, and the door we previously heard knocking at creaks open just a little. We can hear a baby crying but can't seem to do anything with the door. And when you know it's coming and you watch people play this part, it is the most anxiety-inducing thing you could possibly imagine. This part has an interesting mechanic where it doesn't tell you what to do, but we learned that R3 is the only button we could press, and that zooms in a little. See, if you just sit at this door and look in, nothing happens. But the moment you press R3 and zoom in,
Be advised, enemies have deployed Freddy Fazbear into the AO. I'm Freddy Fazbear.
This is actually our first time seeing this woman, but it won't be the last, that's for sure. We don't really know her name yet, but she will make a comeback. On the 5th loop, many people just stop playing altogether, because at this point you can hear her crying, and then finally you could see her. Not only is her crying haunting, it's her shape, posture, silhouette. She's giving baddie.
Baddie alert, baddie alert.
But for real, this is creepy. And when we approach, she disappears, only for a swarm of cockroaches to greet us as the lights turn on. On the 6th loop, the bathroom door opens all the way. We are promised with a flashlight on the floor, but are forced to raise a child. Damn, you really gotta read the fine print these days, huh? Also, we are trapped in here and not allowed out for some time. The music does this interesting and weird swell that it only seems to do at certain parts of the game. Sometimes the swell does strangely seem to lead into jump scares too, which is hard to convey in this video, but I promise you this music is creepy. Also, it seems like when the music swells and gets to like the maximum amount it can be, that's when you're about to die. So like after you know that the first like 1 or 2 times it happens, it gets like super creepy. On the 7th loop is finally when the game and mysterious aspects truly open up. See, the beginning was rather on rails with really nothing you could do to influence anything, other than zooming in on the door. But then on the 7th loop is when you could start to find the pieces of the puzzle, and also gouge out the eye of a picture. Yeah, that's nice. But when I say find pieces of the puzzle, I mean literally find pieces. There are these little tiny pieces around the level, and if you look and zoom in on them, it glitches out the screen just a little. When I say this game becomes mysterious though, I'm not just referring to the pieces here, I am also referring to the fact that you could die. See, the exact method of dying isn't totally clear, but staying in one spot for a long time or listening to the radio can sometimes kill you. Like, as I was watching a lot of footage for this, like, sometimes people turn around on the I said look behind you and get jump scared, and sometimes they don't.
To the radio. Several days before the murders, look behind you. I said, look behind you. While the family was gathered at
As a general note though, if you hear crying, GTFO. Interestingly, the loops are somewhat strange at this part. What I mean is if you quickly run away, you could avoid death and the gouge it out picture, prompting loop 8 to be a little bit different. Or you could just do it here in one go. However, after gouging out the eye, we could see the murderer asking for forgiveness to someone named Lisa. We really don't know if the ghost is named Lisa, however all signs point to it, so from here on, Lisa it is. One of my favorite scares happens next where we are jump scared by a window frame falling. And possibly the scariest non-jump scare thing, which is just Lisa staring at us from above. This is so creepy, and her strangely sinister smile is haunting to say the least. On a later loop, the light is red and the chandelier is replaced with let's just say raspberry jam filled boxes. Yeah, that sounds right. We can also hear the radio say that the father took his own life in the garage. However, a darker sounding voice can be heard saying he did it with an umbilical cord.
After killing his family, the father hung himself with a garden hose they had in the garage.
On one of the later loops, the game will just continue to loop unless you complete a puzzle. There will be the words "hello" written on the wall. You have to keep looking at it and then look away repeatedly until the letters H-E-L-L leave, spelling hell. When you finish it and view the sentence, it says, "I can hear them calling me from H-E double hockey sticks." A laugh occurs, followed by a door unlocking noise. Continuing on to the next, the chandelier is back, but the red room remains. The radio says something in Swedish, which is sort of implying that the War of the Worlds broadcast is real and aliens are here on Earth with us. And it kind of tells us we need to do something, and some numbers play. These numbers have played quite a few times actually. It's kind of like Sleeper Cell-esque, but the radio, in my opinion, is actually a big key to this mystery, which we'll talk about a little bit later. By the way, I believe that this isn't actually someone saying that aliens are here, but showing how the father perhaps got corrupted by some conspiracy stuff. Maybe I'm wrong and we're really just like, vibing with the aliens. After we enter a sped up version of the hallways, the pictures are replaced with eyes watching us. The hallways are in even more nonsensical shapes and constantly looping us. Our vision is also blurry, reminiscent of if the character was drunk or something. We can only continue when we come across a peephole which looks into the bathroom. After looking at it, we can hear what sounds like someone getting introduced to culinary school, but with more passion and excitement. Don't you hear the excitement? Inside, our fetus tells us that we were a drunk man who got fired, and our wife got a job but only managed to keep it because the manager was a creep and liked how she looked in a skirt. Yikes. This game doesn't really let you progress after the next loop. In fact, it kinda strangely seems broken, and even the screen starts to glitch out slowly. It lets you deal with this uncomfortable silence. No music, no crying, no noises except for what ends up being the glitches. Eventually, we hear the same numbers repeat over the radio that were chanted previously. 204-863. 204-863. 204-863. 204-863. The game eventually crashes. This is intentional though. There are many different variants to the crashes too. Some of them imply that development has halted or that there is a bug. Take note of this because I'll circle back to it a little bit later. From here on, the game can loop forever. Sometimes you'll even get some cool colors for your room. But it was at this point that players had to learn how to solve a puzzle. This puzzle was all about getting a phone to ring, but how? Honestly, I don't know. Unreal PT has its own rules that came with the game. Oh, right, yeah. I mentioned it before, but some of the clips in this video are using Unreal PT. Some fans tried to recreate it since it was like off the marketplace for a long time, and it's pretty good overall. A distinct lack of cockroaches though. From my understanding, they're still working on it, and I will say though that as far as remaking a game goes, while it doesn't have the exact same feel and design, it does get pretty damn close, so props to them. And if you want to download it and try it for yourself, it's probably only like a 25-minute to 30-minute experience, so like, why not? What seems to be certain though in solving the puzzle is that you need to walk a little bit to trigger a baby's laugh. Then you need to find Lisa and get close enough to observe, but not too close. This will prompt a second laugh. And eventually you need to wait for the controller to stop vibrating, triggering a third and final laugh. After that, the phone will ring, in which place we could go up and answer it. I just want to say, like, real brief though, I remember when people were trying to solve this all the time, and they really thought that you had to use the microphone.
Oh, a giggle! Yay, okay. So then, plug in, so you're not gonna hear anything now.
Okay.
Because I've got the microphones.
Okay, that's good.
Unpause the game and yell for 30 seconds. All right, here we go.
And I don't know for sure, but you can like look up videos online still from like around that time, and people are still like able to solve it using the microphone and names, but I'm not sure if that's intentional because I've seen people solve it without the microphone. So anyways, I'm just not sure. When you answer, a voice will tell you that you've been chosen, and then it will show us a trailer for Silent Hills with, oh my god, is that Norman Reedus? The guy from Death Stranding? So on paper, PT is a horror game demo, but ends up being harder than a full-length game to solve their puzzle. Yeah, that's a little strange, but let's talk about what the hell just happened and why this is so influential. So let me get this straight. This short teaser inspired countless horror games and is still inspiring them today. Why? Well, you see, Kojima kinda wants to blend movies and games together. Oh, yeah, this is made by Hideo Kojima, in case you didn't know. Anyways, Death Stranding and PT work with directors and real actors. But how is it possible to blend these together? Honestly, I already think he's done it to some degree. For my analysis, we'll just look at PT, but consider, why is PT scary? Why is PT remembered so much today? Honestly, the game doesn't have so much in gameplay, it's kinda just like the vibe and aesthetic. It's the unique feeling you get when you play this game. It almost feels like the game is alive. This game knows everything. There are so many small details I can maybe point out, but I want to say that the camera, the movements, the blurriness, the lighting, all of it together really feels like cinematic, but not in a gameplay sort of sense. Hey, hold up. While editing, I just realized something crazy and I had to add it to this video. So basically, I'm sifting through the footage here, jumping between the end game and the early game clips, and then I noticed something crazy. At some point, I was listening to the audio carefully and I noticed there's a distinct and unique sound. I thought at first this was from after you died to Lisa one time. I thought maybe you had a limp or a different walk, but it seems to be here before that. Then I decided to try to find when the footstep audio shifts a little, and you won't believe when. First, listen to the original footstep audio when you start the game. Now listen to this footstep audio that I discovered.
Control flares up yet again. We regret to report the murder of a wife and her 2 children by their husband.
Do you hear that extra, like, higher pitch hit? At first I thought maybe it was a cane, hence why I assumed you were also heard from Lisa, but then I thought, what else could it be? And as I was sifting through the footage and found the exact loop it started on, listen to this.
The father purchased the rifle used in the crime at his local gun store 2 days earlier.
That isn't a cane. That's a rifle. The game changes your footstep audio after discussing a rifle, implying you're walking around with it, possibly using it as a cane, or tapping it on the floor occasionally. I couldn't find anyone discussing this online, and it's kind of crazy that, like, today I'm still able to find new things out about this game. And you know what? Since I can't find anyone online talking about this, I'm claiming it. This is the ZZ Bop rifle theory. Yeah, I like that. The ZZ Bop rifle theory has a good ring to it. Alright, back to the video. Upon first playthrough and after experiencing this game, it is simply a teaser for Silent Hills. But there are an insane amount of unanswered questions. A lot of the stuff I want to say is speculation, however, some of these are widely accepted as fact in the community. For one, the studio being unheard of. The name 7780s is actually likely a reference to the kilometers of Shizuoka Prefecture in Japan, which Shizu in kanji refers to silent, and Oka refers to hill. Silent hill, huh? You see what I did? I got a silent, I got a hill. Silent Hill. If you thought that is cool, you should definitely go check out many subreddits that harbor all these crazy Hideo Kojima theories, because no matter what you think of his games, the man is excellent at making you think. For starters, why did this game get cancelled? Well, there's a lot of interesting stuff regarding this, almost like a mini iceberg if you will, an ice cube. And this ice cube explains what happened to none other than Kojima himself. So what happened? On paper, Kojima left the company and Silent Hills was cancelled. That's the official version. But players weren't satisfied with that explanation. But at the end of the day, he got kicked off the project and the game was cancelled, so that's it, right? But lots of speculation among fans actually try to prove that this isn't the full story. See, Kojima likely knew that his time at Konami was coming to an end from many things like emails and meetings, but also more obvious things like being demoted within the company. But the speculation doesn't end at this point. You see, Silent Hills was announced to include not only Norman Reedus, but famous director Guillermo del Toro, as well as graphic novelist Junji Ito. A lot of people were hyped for this, as the combination of all this talent together could very likely make the perfect game, a weapon to surpass Metal Gear. Naturally, Junji Ito and Guillermo del Toro don't work on video games, so they were not really necessarily there for their coding abilities or gameplay design, which you should already know that. They were there for the vision. Shortly before the infamous PT teaser we received, Guillermo told us that he got to play a little bit of Silent Hills, and the version he played was nothing like PT. Now you may think that this means that they put a lot of work in this project, and while I'm sure that a professional team could develop a teaser at this scale in a short time, to be able to confidently put that on the market with executives and CEOs and seemingly create something in a short time, that is impressive, especially for that time. But here's the thing. What if I told you the theory a lot of people have is that Hideo knew he was going to get fired? What if the story of PT is also a message of what is happening at Konami? See, Konami was interested in making mobile games, and the money they can make at this time was like crazy. Mobile games are cash cows, and big, long developed horror games are not really worth it in a CEO's eyes. Someone like Kojima had to go. Remember the "I'm taking my toys with me"? Kojima took key members of his team with him to his own studio. Really makes you think, doesn't it? See, that's what I want to highlight about this game. We still don't know. Even with mountains of evidence leading us to believe something, we still don't know anything. Honestly, with how secretive things are, we may never know. But enough about the corporate horror. Let's look at this game as if it was intended to be true. Let's look at my personal theory, and what I believe is the reason that I can say PT is coming back. What was this game even supposed to be? It certainly wasn't a standard Silent Hill game, it's first person. Also, Silent Hills? Hills? With an S? See, Silent Hill games always felt like they were a mix of trauma and reflections that haunted characters who did something wrong previously. This essentially makes it purgatory for that character. But you are Norman Reedus, and likely not a bad guy considering it shows you exploring the city after. In other words, you probably are not Lisa's murderer. But did you do something bad? Honestly, I think no. I think this is a different type of story. You are perhaps cleansing these sort of purgatories is my guess. The name being plural is rather interesting, since in my eyes it means that we would encounter many situations that are like PT, but not directly PT. Look at an early concept art and vision of Silent Hills. This doesn't really look like what we got, but it is first person. The game also doesn't feel like a supernatural haunting, at least to me. It feels kinda programmed. I mean, like, hear me out. The game breaks the fourth wall so many times. For instance, the game has one of the puzzle pieces required to complete it hidden within the brightness menu. Huh? Not only is that a genius puzzle, it has strange implications for lore or Silent Hills puzzles. Another one I would like to mention is that the game is literally glitching and breaking. Also, when you obtain a picture, you could see the game glitch a little. When the radio says 204863 repeatedly, it finally breaks and hard crashes. Something interesting I've always pondered is the possibility of this game being related to MKUltra, sleeper cells, and crazy government experiments. The voice on the radio does mention War of the Worlds and not to trust the tap water, which sounds like a conspiracy. It also recites 204863, which is rather ominous. Are you under some government program? At one point after dying, the bag in the creepy asylum starts to state this: I walked. I could do nothing but walk. And then I saw me walking in front of myself, but it wasn't really me. Watch out. The gap in the door is a separate reality. The only me is me. Are you sure the only you is you? What if this is referring to the character's control? He could do nothing but walk. Watching. Is he in control? Are you sure the only you is you? Think about it, people, come on, I'm sure someone's smarter than me. Really though, even the whole "you've been chosen" on the phone is kinda strange, right? Like, it's kinda out of place for the rest of the game.
You've been chosen.
Lots of people look at this as a congratulations, but it feels like kind of intentional. I mean, like, simply answering the phone with nothing on the other side would have worked too, or simply Norman Reedus himself just saying hello.
I love you so much, my little teddy bear.
But I have one more question for you that I brought up at the very start of this video. Remember how I said PT never ended? Well, take a look at this. Oh yeah, it's getting crazy.
The hungry purple dinosaur ate the kind zingy fox, the jabbering crab, and the mad whale, and started bending and quacking.
Have you ever downloaded fonts? The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. It's something you see on all of them. The reason is simple. It contains every letter of the English alphabet. This is called a pangram. But the OD phrase is different. It is a phonetic pangram. It is a phrase used to produce every sound in the English language. But the characters saying it are not just characters. They're actors being motion captured. The trailer starts with a Geiger counter sound. Ominous, but doesn't really tell us a whole lot. It kinda simply repeats the characters saying the phonetic phrase. There's also a noticeable reflection in their eyes, as well as this girl being a bit disturbed or upset by the second time she starts to say it. Almost like something's bothering her. After the phrase has been repeated a few times, we could hear walking. And in the reflection of her eyes, it looks like a door opens and she screams in horror as the trailer ends. What? This trailer came out 2 years ago, and it perplexed everyone. But it doesn't stop here. See, I was already interested in this topic and wanted to talk about this, but the second trailer came out and I felt like I had to. In this trailer, titled Knock, we get some ominous text spread throughout, with more things redacted than our infamous island files. While I won't go into great details about what happened in this trailer, what we do know is that we are clearly in for a terrifying experience and something that Kojima claims is brand new. I'll briefly speculate what I imagine the story of OD would be. What if we have the sleeper cell stuff, like MKUltra, and the people are being brainwashed to do things? The numbers 204863. They're being repeated, leading the father to homicide in PT and leading the characters to constantly repeat the phrase over and over again in the first trailer. Take notice that they're in a room that has ominous lights. It almost looks like an experiment, or a program that is essentially transporting them to a haunted place. But I would also like to mention, Kojima has stated that this is an episodic journey. I'm willing to bet that we will see the return of Guillermo del Toro and Junji Ito, hopefully, as well as other directors who will be crafting individual chapters or gameplay of it. We already know Jordan Peele will be a part of it too. Kojima stated that this game is completely different than anything we've ever seen. But what does that mean? It could simply mean Kojima is creating a good game and hyping it up, or he could be developing new tech, or some new things in general. Death Stranding 2 is a very technically impressive game, as well as the engine he has worked on for quite some time being impressive. It is known that Kojima has always been into film and has always wanted to blend and blur the line between film and video games. But how is that possible? Honestly, PT did get rather close, and that's what makes PT special. That's why I'm making this video. PT doesn't feel like a game, it's an experience. One that sticks with people forever. See, when games try to recreate PT, they focus on extra mechanics or gameplay loops, not the deeper meanings and direction that a director or a storyteller could take it. Fans notice something very carefully placed in Udo Kier's mouth from the first trailer. If you enhance the photos, you could find ATAMI, which means, honestly, nothing to me. I don't know what that means. But after reading what people had to say online and researching, Atami is a city in Japan which is located in Shizuoka Prefecture. Silent Hill. When we look at the second trailer's redacted text, we could fill in the blanks to get this. 10 years since the legendary horror game P.T., the cursed survivors have once again ventured into the Forbidden. This building was replicated from a 3D scan of an abandoned clinic found in an isolated village, and then they were trapped in a sinister ritual. This is what fans have speculated is the unredacted text. I want to make it clear I did not solve this. It was this subreddit, and shout out to these guys. See, the text unredacted looks like they simply are ghost hunters or something. But it does say they're cursed. By what? Kojima games have always been a bit critical of government programs, so could my theory be correct? But if you still don't believe me, I'll leave you with possibly the most definitive proof of Kojima continuing PT. Here it is.